Welcome to Postscript World on Fire Season 2. I'm Fred Vigen along with Matt Wilson. Hey, Matt.
Hi, friend. How are you?
Good. We are into the second episode of Season 2, and support for Postscript World on Fire comes from Rogers & Associates. More information available at rogers-associates.com.
There you go.
Let's get into episode 2. Where do you want to begin?
So I'm tempted to say this feels a bit more like World on Fire.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's because a few more old characters are coming back, but this episode was a little easier for me to feel like I was watching versus, critiquing the whole time.
The first episode was more panic just because we didn't know what was going on. There were a lot of new people. We were missing a lot of people. We didn't know what was going on.
But my core thought, I think, is yes, we do have some older characters come back. We have a new character or two show up. But this episode is all about Lois, Cassia, and baby Vera.
Yes.
Even I would even drill it down to a specific scene that I thought was the crux of this episode.
One would that be?
This was when they're having Cassia and Lois are having tea together, and they're discussing change.
Yes.
And depression and anxiety and all the things that their lives have been introduced to. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We are confirmed Lois is alive.
Lois is alive,
Right.
yes.
There's a little tease
Near
at
death.
the end of the first episode of the season. The second time now they've teased us with a possible character death. Now, there were actual
Tom was
legit
one.
character deaths off screen, but this is the second time we've seen a on-screen tease. Yep. So she's alive. She's physically alive, but emotionally, internally, she is struggling.
I was going to say, she seems more like Cassia now, where just a changed person, a changed character, really frozen, not sure how to mother, it seems like.
Right.
She's just having a tough time with that. Not that we saw much of that prior, but didn't seem as much of an issue.
No, and she confides this sort of internal struggle with a couple of people. Early, we see with Tom at the gravesite of their father. She flat out tells Tom, I don't really feel love for the baby. I don't really feel much of anything right now. And I considered suicide. I wanted to die in that building. She says, I stayed. I watched it come down, and she saw that as an escape, potential escape from what she sees as a really horrific life right now. I felt that. That kind of struggle with depression, with all the emotions that come with that loss of control, that feeling that nothing is what I want, nothing is going my way. It's tough.
I agree, and we did see Tom briefly at the gravesite, as you mentioned, and Tom was trying his best to refocus Lois, saying, "You're all I've got. You can't take off now." But yeah, to that point, I wonder if, to your point, if her motivation to reenlist is she just doesn't feel like she has anything left to live for.
Yeah, it's interesting that she still sees a sense of service as an option. But to me, it looks like a vehicle of escape. It's like this thing that I'm kind of doing, not really enjoying, but doing, could be my ticket out of where I don't want to be.
Right. Staying here in what is a changed world, and at this point in time, no one knows when things will change different, for the better or worse.
Right.
She's just got to get out of here.
Yeah, and outside of Tom, I mean, everything she's experiencing must be painful. Her house where her father used to live, he's gone. There's this baby here from an old boyfriend that is off to war and is married some other young woman.
Who she's now met.
Yeah, she lives with all these people that continually cause pain and memories of loss, and there's no respite for her, I think. So I'm willing to say I kind of get it, as much as it's hard to watch. I'm not going to judge her. I think I get it.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like the most dramatic part of the episode was the very end of it. That was probably the most emotional part.
Yep.
Basically, wheeling the bassinet up to the door of. My goodness.
It was Robina's house.
Robina's house, thank you.
I wasn't sure what building it was at first until,
but you could see Robina stick her head out of
Yeah.
the window, or behind the blinds anyways, and And she's, obviously Lois is going through with it.
Yeah.
She's moving on.
And what was so interesting about this is that Cassia might have been the catalyst to help her make that decision. They had that moment I alluded to at the beginning, to me, was the most powerful part of this episode, or maybe even the season so far. But they're having tea together and they're talking through, and they both kind of share that, they each want to find a way to get away, or Cassia did, in essence, although she's still not thrilled with where she's at. But Lois is fully in this. And Cassie reads her really well. I think she says, you say certain things enough to yourself and you start to believe them.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do this. I want out. I don't belong here. And I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, of course. But then she adds, believe it. Once you believe it, because you've convinced yourself, then you can forgive yourself for doing what you want to do, because you've now convinced yourself that this is the only choice. So it's a little bit of mental gymnastics and self-delusion, but it is a way of coping with, again, these horrible situations.
I mean, at least she has some of her family now reunited.
Right.
Gregor's and Jan are there, presumably all living together at Robina's house.
Jan and Cassie definitely. Gregor's, again, somehow became some sort of mechanic or serviceman at an Air Force base.
Right.
Because he knows some of the pilots. He's interacting with David. I still don't quite understand how all that happened. But they are all definitely in Manchester and able to contact each other. Yeah.
There's certainly a gap there that we need to, hopefully we will connect that dot maybe next episode. We'll see.
Maybe.
But, Robina's just got this house of miscellaneous characters.
Yeah, she jokes about that. So this was, I'm glad you bridged that, because this was really interesting. This part I'm about to explain really feels like this show was written for me personally, which is bizarre. But so Jan is reading The Hobbit.
Okay.
The Hobbit, J.R.R. Tolkien, of course, published, I had to look this up, but 1937, so very timely.
Okay.
What's super interesting about this, obviously, like many people, huge fan of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. We also had a George Orwell reference in season 1.
Yep.
And I have collected several pieces, not his real name, it's a pen name, but several pieces by George Orwell. I had wondered in an earlier postscript episode if Animal Farm or 1984 might have been published. Turns out they were not. Animal Farm's 1945 and 1984 published in 1949. So these came a little bit later. But by this point in time, around 1940, Orwell had a ton of fiction, nonfiction, and other articles published. So he would have been very well known, especially in England. So having those two authors show up is pretty cool. And the way Tolkien got mixed in this episode is Jan is reading The Hobbit and sharing specifically the scene where Gandalf the Wizard approaches Bilbo, forces him to have a big party for all these dwarves that are coming, and then takes him out on a big adventure. And Robina is like, I can't believe Gandalf would do this. He would force this onto him or onto Bilbo and make him make the decision. And Jan just summarizes it so nicely. He says, no, what's cool about it is that Bilbo decides to do it. He chooses. He makes the choice to accept these people in his home and go on this big adventure. And that's where we leave that scene. There's no real response to that, but I love it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's...
And a couple episodes to go, but Jan is kind of working on the heartstrings of Robina of, you have a choice here. You can decide what to do.
And she's certainly demonstrated that she has taken to Jan. We saw in an episode in the first season where she stood up for him. But yeah, she seems to have developed a soft spot.
Some of the knocks of having no maternal instincts may or may not be fully true. But
maybe it's just a defense mechanism.
Right. Certainly.
But then, okay, so Sir James, who the heck? In my notes here, I just said, who is this dude?
All right, James Denimore. So we learned a little bit about him. Apparently some civil servant, has a lot of connections in the government, in the sort of the wheels of power. I think the word we're looking for is billeted. Billeted is it's almost like quartering, something we put in the Bill of Rights in the U.S. that we aren't forced to do. But I believe this person is placed in Robina's house as part of a sort of martial law type stipulations that they're at war. He needed to be placed around Manchester for some reason. And so Robina's house was either selected somehow or she somehow volunteered to host government officials for a period of the war.
Okay.
He has some connections. He actually helps clear up Kassia's legal issue
Yeah.
of her. We'll call it an assault, although we all feel it was justified, but her assault of that older gentleman in the cafe back in episode 1. He's good at chess. He plays chess with Jan. And then through both his teaching to Jan of some tactics of chess about guile and subterfuge, in the presence of a weapon in one of his suitcases and some other technology that he brings, I think Kassia overhears him on the radio late at night. There's definitely an extra layer to this guy.
Yeah, there's more to come.
Yeah.
There's something there. I mean, and Robina was aware he was coming, it seemed, but just not on the day, whatever day.
Wasn't quite sure how it worked. You know,
Yeah.
there's jokes about meals being provided. There was a room clearly provided. He brought flowers. He helped set up a Christmas tree, which actually helps timestamp the episode. We're definitely Hanukkah's mentioned as well, so we're drifting into December 1940. But
It seemed like a Charlie Brown. I know this
yeah,
Charlie
sure
Brown
did.
looking Christmas
Well,
tree, which
he found it somewhere.
Yeah.
It seems so. He made a joke about it, but. So that is the story behind there. It seems like some sort of government official that needs to be in the area and is placed in this home with a room provided minimally, and Robina is trying to figure out what all that means in practicality. He seems like a nice guy in general, but you know, there's a layer there. Again.
There's mystique that we still have yet to determine.
Right.
So we have him. We have Lois's baby. We have Jan and Kassia.
All in the
and
house
obviously
together.
Robina.
And Joyce, the housekeeper.
Housekeeper.
Yep.
Harry's off, and we'll get to him in a minute. But Harry's off in northern Africa.
Yeah, not a lot happens here. We do get the reunion that we
were
saw
expecting.
coming, Harry and Stan. A few things that were interesting for me. We confirmed Harry's rank as a lieutenant, or lieutenant, as the English pronounce it. Stan is a sergeant, it turns out.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if
Yeah.
I had heard that or if I just made that up, but got Sergeant Stan. They are there with the Egyptian sapper unit. They're fighting the Italians, and the purpose was cleared up. There are oil and other fuel-based supply lines coming out of Africa that they are there to secure to help kind of further the war effort. If that gets cut off, then they lose their fuel supply, and that would be a bad thing. So a little more clear why they're there. I'm a little annoyed that Lois pegged Cairo, Egypt as a location for her service. Because I just, yeah, exactly. So, well, whatever. It's the show. They do that. But that's fine. But the only other thing that really of interest that we learned in the Egypt storyline is Harry is wounded. It's a small wound on his leg. It wouldn't be a major issue, but the medic confirms it's already septic, which is not a good thing. It means it's infected, and in medicine, of course, in the 1940s, especially in the middle of a desert, is not real great. So they drop that. They make kind of a big point of it for a scene, and then it's gone. So I don't remember him being wounded. I don't think there was a moment where we saw that happen. And I don't know why he didn't get care when he was back in England, but
the only thing I could think of is when he was dropped in, right before he was reunited with Kassia.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I don't recall.
it's interesting.
There's a gap there.
So, other places we can hit, because I think I want to save Germany for last. 'Cause the Germany plot lines kill me in
That's
this
the newer
show.
one. Oh,
But we
that
go
was
to
awful.
Paris briefly. So Henriette and Albert are still alive and kicking.
It's good to see Albert again. Unfortunately, I mean, good to see him. Sad to see exactly where we left him.
Agreed. Yeah. Webster's nowhere to be found, but I think that's just non-show related reasons. Yeah. But Henriette, it turns out, has a brother, Luke, who becomes a way for her to get more interested in Albert's situation in the prison.
Yeah, she's still working at the same hospital she was, although things are getting a little tighter there.
Yeah, the Third Reich is clearly infiltrated and looking for people that they do not like. Let's just put it that simply. It's oversimplification, of course. So Henrietta tries to get her brother to escape back out of the hospital that he's crept into somehow. He gets caught, gets put in the same camp as Albert, and then everybody gets united in that way. Looks like they're plotting some sort of minor escape plan that, who knows?
I mean,
There's
Albert,
a whole lot of movement, yeah.
I mean, he was suggesting, don't worry, kind of like what he would say to Webster is like, well, you trying to do something could cause more harm
Worse
than
for all of us. Yeah.
So we'll see where that goes. But, I mean, so that storyline is back.
Right. David, who I'm still trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do with. So he's the Air Force pilot.
Yeah.
We're generally not supposed
Very
to like
cocky.
him, but we do learn something interesting. So he explains to one of his superiors, I guess, is the fact that he jokes and laughs a little bit is his way of dealing with the stress and the loss. And as he says, the fact that half the world hates him because he's Jewish, which
Right.
I get. We do see him lose another wingman toward the end of
Right
the
at the end,
episode.
yeah.
So it feels like this could be the kind of thing where these continued losses will shape his character a little bit, how he approaches decision making, and who knows? Again, we got a few episodes to go. It feels like a traditional arc, though, of where the realities of war and loss change you. So we'll see if he's able to grow out of his sort of more casual defensive self.
Right.
Yeah. So let's talk Germany.
Goethe.
Goethe.
Yeah, my so she
So
yeah. This seems to be like a lot for a young lady to be dealing with.
yeah,
them,
so
for
we
different
have
reasons, but-
Marga, who is the brainwashed sort of. I use the term drinking the Kool-Aid. She has bought into this Germany, the patriotism and this program specifically in Germany.
Right.
Goethe is the friend who gets it.
Right. And
who
he's like, "Are
sees
you really
this
sure about
as-
this?" Yeah.
She says, "We're only 16.
Yeah.
This is brainwashing. This is, they are talking you into this program that's terrible." And Marga wants nothing to do with that. She actually arranges to turn her friend in to the Secret Service.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then she gets put into a situation to basically name somebody that's giving her this impression.
This is the part that killed me. So
Yeah.
this is typical totalitarian sort of system. But yes, we have you, young girl, but we want to know, who else are you talking to? Who else are you hearing from? And she responds truthfully, "Well, no, but I think this is a terrible program. I don't
just a
need
human
someone to tell me
being."
that." Yeah. And then they, in essence, put up, "Well, hey, we can go get your parents, or you can give us somebody
teacher.
else, maybe this teacher we know about." And she has no choice in this matter. You're gonna choose your family. I would imagine if and the teacher, to his credit, as he's getting dragged out past her and she's in tears, she apologizes. I think he says something along the lines to her of, "You just got to do what you need to do to survive."
Yeah, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I mean. My notes, I just put like, this seems like an awful lot for a 16-year-old to be dealing with.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the theme again of this whole show so far is, yes, there's a war, but the war is like a secondary character. Is really, what is the war doing
Right.
to all these people? And we're seeing the impact of this war and this fascist movement on citizens of Germany, of people in England, people in Northern Africa now, Paris, a ton of time in Poland. It's everywhere. This war is impacting everybody, whether they're actively fighting it or not.
Agreed.
So, some closing thoughts. Lois and Harry especially are fighting their own wars, but one is more internal and one is external.
Yes.
Cassia, I'm a little more intrigued by lately. There's the option of, will she try to be a mother to baby Vera? Is this what she wants? Obviously not. I mean,
I don't think it's what she wants, but she'll maybe make up for whatever maternal lacking that Robina has,
Right.
perhaps.
Yeah.
As someone that could be, as far as age goes, would
Right.
would be her mom.
in that place,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. I still don't care much about David, but we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, yeah. I
We're
have
not
a hard
supposed
time.
to really like him at this point. It's fine.
Yeah, they've created an unlikable character so far.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And just again, the ties back to the people in Germany are some of the most powerful. Yeah, the Rossler family, of course, from season 1,
Yeah.
but this new storyline is difficult as well for the right reasons. Yeah. So that's what we think. It's a lot. But as always, we'd love to hear what you think. There's some ways you can be in touch with us. Start with email, postscript@witf.org, or just ps@witf.org. We'll be happy to trade thoughts, answer questions on this show if you want to email us. You can find us in all the WTF social medias. You can also find this in all the podcast directories. And if you want to check us out on YouTube, you can watch Postscript World on Fire. Leave a rating, leave a comment, like the episode, subscribe to the Mosaic channel, all that good stuff. We want to give a shout out again to Rogers and Associates for sponsoring Postscript World on Fire Season 2. You can find all this content on Mosaic, and if you are having fun and would like to help us make more of this content, please visit witf.org/mosaic for all the info about the program and how you can help us. Any last thoughts?
No, we well, I don't even know what to expect in episode 3. That's my last thought. So we look forward to talking with you next time.
There you go.